Okay, I've been hand sanding this for just a little while, and I know that on the machine I took this up to a 220 grit finish. But when I start hand sanding the flats of the blade and these flats here, I step back to a wet or dry 100 grit. And I have this wet or dry paper in grits from 60 all the way up to 7,000. But what wet sanding does, it shows me any little dips or depressions or imperfections in the steel that I don't want my customer to see because they don't look good. Those little shadows and stuff, when you look down the blade, and everybody admires their knife, and you look down that blade in the sunlight, you don't want to see a roller coaster track. It's just not acceptable for me. So this water, when we're sanding, will collect in those depressions, and it becomes discolored from the grit and from the steel, and it shows them to you really well. And I have a tiny one right here that I'm going to be working, but I'm not going to concentrate just on that area. I do the whole blade. We're not talking very deep. That would probably be less than 1/10 of a thousandth. But I want to work the whole knife down to that level. I don't want any low spots. If you concentrate right here, then you're going to have a big dip, and it's frustrating. So take a full stroke, and pretty soon that piece that you're staring at, and I'm just staring at that thing, it's going to go away. And then we can flip the blade over and do the other side. And then as I step up in grit, I'm doing my flats here where the guard's going to sit, and then this free area. And I'll show you the knife when I get it up to that 2,000 grit finish. So I'll come back after a whole lot of elbow grease. Alright, we just come off the Rotary Vise. That's a 2,000 finish, and I hope I'm getting this angle right where you can see that. But that is what I look down the blade, and I don't want to see any dips and waves and all that sort of thing. It doesn't take that awful much work to get there, but that is the kind of quality I want to put out of my shop. So we're ready for guards. Okay, I have the knife set up to solder the guards, and I put these long locator pins in there just to get them set, and I'm getting ready to pull those pins, and I'm going to solder without the pins in there, and I might have to clean the holes out with a with an 1/8 inch drill bit, which is fine. Then I'll peen the guards on permanently after I make some proper pins to do that with. Camera kept wanting to focus on those Q-tips. Alright, so you just want to start gently heating from below. Use propane flame. You don't need anything like MAP gas. This solder melts at a pretty low temp. Now you'll see some color change in the steel, but that's normal when you heat any steel up. So I'm going to work my way around both sides, and then as soon as that solder flows, I'm going to push the solder around my acid brush, and then we'll scrub it with a brass wire brush, and then we're done. Alright, solder's just about to flow. And there it goes. And I just push it around. Keep it melted. And we'll do the other side. Now I get the excess off. The brass wire brush works really fine. That's all there is to that. Alright, I'm going to go cool this blade off, and I'll be right back. Alright, this is the final step in installing the guard, and that's just pinning the pins. So I've made some short pins with some conical points, and all you do, you simply drive them against your anvil, and you're flattening each end. And before I drove the pins through, I took a little conical shaped diamond burr and I just slightly bell mouthed these holes. So you're going to swell that steel to fill that bell mouth, and we're making essentially a rivet. So There's no need to be real gentle with this. Just start hitting it and expanding that metal. You keep peening until it just feels like you're done. That's about what you want when you're finished. Nice flattened heads, and you can feel sure that this is relatively soft stainless, these pins. It has expanded and filled their gaps. So now we're going to do a little bit of cleanup, and this soldering residue will literally buff off with emery. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to proceed with getting the handles on. We're getting real close on this knife. Okay, I walked this over to the buffer and cleaned up all the discoloration from the soldering process, and I ground the heads of the pins off. But that's what they're supposed to look like when they're finished. No real evidence of a pin, and now we just have a nice smooth surface, and no more finishing on this guard on the sides or the edges here until I get the handle material on, and then it all gets finished together. But yeah, that's how they're supposed to look when you solder a guard on and then peen it. Turned out nice. We're ready for handles.